What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, checking out the Kubey Monster Dog, and this is the more premium version with the flamed titanium scales or handles and the M390 Blade. There is a G10 version in 14C28N steel on Amazon for around 56 bucks, but this one I would recommend if you're going to pick it up through Kubey if you're watching this kind of close to when it releases, because Kubey has it right now for $165, which is about $10 cheaper than Going Gear where I got this, where it's currently sold out, but also through Amazon it's about $175 there. So shop around if you're watching this in the kind of distant future, but if you're watching this right around release time, it's definitely cheaper on the Kubey website right now. Really surprised me with this knife though. I like the look of it almost immediately. I love the flamed titanium look they have here. It's got this nice zigzag pattern, and then the anodized hardware is really nice touch. They had that on the plain version as well, but I think it just looks excellent with this version. You can see the thumb stud, or some thumb disc I guess, the pivot and the screws are all color matched. Now on the raw titanium version, I believe the backspacer and pocket clip are also color matched, but you can see they carried on that flamed pattern directly onto the backspacer and that pocket clip, so looks really good. Now this also feels like a much larger knife than it actually is. It's actually relatively small at 7.01 inches overall, but two things contributing to that. One, the thickness of it. The handle's about 0.59 inches thick without the pocket clip. With the pocket clip, you're getting up to over 3/4 of an inch at 0.76 inches, and that does come into play a little bit in the just overall ergos. It's still really comfortable, not a hot spot, but you feel it a little bit because it's so thick. If it were a little bit thinner, you probably wouldn't feel it at all. Now, I don't know that it matters so much. It never really got uncomfortable, even during like longer sessions, breaking down cardboard, stuff like that. Never a hot spot whatsoever, but I'm aware that it's there. And so if it were a little bit thinner, I might not be. But overall, ergos on this are excellent. You can see I had a nice 4-finger grip on here. It's got a 4.06 inch handle, and you can see there's not really a finger guard, but pretty easy to kind of lock up behind the blade. You can get that hammer grip real close to the blade and have plenty of real estate for that 4-finger grip. So no finger guard pushing you back, and comfortable in that grip, comfortable with my thumb resting kind of right behind this disc on that jimping, comfortable in the more controlled cut and slicing into boxes, stuff like that where you don't want to damage it. All really comfortable on this knife. Now that blade is only 2.95 inches, which is again nice if you have knife flaws where you're under a 3-inch blade, you're only at 2.95 inches, but definitely feels like a little bit more. And again, besides the thickness, also the weight of it. It's 4.8 ounces, which isn't light for a knife this size. It doesn't feel super heavy in the hand. You can definitely feel it if you're just kind of free carrying it in your pocket. On the clip, it doesn't feel like much either. But if you drop this into your pocket, there's some weight behind it. And so that contributes to that overall feeling of just being a larger knife, even though it's so small. Now, the blade is also on the thicker end. Already mentioned M390 on the steel, nice sheep's foot style blade here. Flat grind almost all the way up. That thumb disc doesn't really get in the way at all. You would think it would because it's so thick, but I don't know how well the kind of wear is picking up on the camera, but it definitely stops about a 1/4 inch in, and so not really running into that problem. And part of that is because most of the time when I'm cutting, I like to place my thumb right here behind the thumb stud, and so my thumb would be blocking it even if that thumb disc wasn't. And so not really running into that issue. Now this does really well breaking down boxes, stuff like that. It shouldn't be an excellent slicer, but it does a decent job. It's not horrible, honestly. And again, getting back to the thickness of that blade, about 0.16 inches behind the back here. And so definitely on the thicker side, but does a decent job at those slicing tasks as well. Now, frame lock, really excellent action on here. It's on cage ball bearings, and so both the open and close are excellent. You can see it drop down, guillotined onto my thumbnail, and a single shake will get you the rest of the way there. Really great acoustics on here as well, so I'll pause for a second while I close it and then reopen it. And so really great acoustics. Hopefully that picked up well on camera. It's got a nice heavy thunk to it and just sounds really good. Super smooth and easy to deploy. Now, when I first got it, I wasn't a huge fan of the thumb discs. I like how they look visually because they're a little bit different than what I have on most of my knives, which are just standard thumb studs. But these are definitely more of a disc. Now, the reason I wasn't a huge fan of them is a lot of them, you just kind of place the meat of your thumb on top and they grab onto your thumb and you can flip it out. If you try that with this one, you slide off the top, there's nowhere to gain any purchase or traction. It's super smooth on the top, and so it's impossible to open it like that. But there's plenty of real estate to get the meat of your finger behind it and just push open, and it requires almost no effort. It's pretty foolproof and just flies out of there. And so once you get used to that, it's really easy to deploy both with your thumb or your middle finger on the other side. You can do kind of the same thing and just get the meat of your finger behind that disc and push it open and it flies out of there. So really nice action on here, really nice acoustics. That pocket clip is right hand tip up only, so not reversible unfortunately, but nice deep carry pocket clip, and I actually like the pocket clip quite a bit, both stylistically and it works pretty well. It's nice and stout, and so that works well. Decent access to that lock bar. It's nothing crazy, but it is sticking out a little bit further than the top scale, and so really easy to get on there. There's no jimping or anything, which I actually prefer as long as you have enough access, because that jimping can get a little bit sharp if you're opening it a lot. Now, as far as billboarding goes, pretty minimal. You have the Kubey logo on that pivot, and then Kubey printed right here. Now, if you flip it to the other side, you do have your blade steel M390 as well as a maker's mark. This was designed by Dmitry Osarenko, and these are made in China. Really good quality though. I would definitely pick this up again at that $165 price point. Looking at it visually, I enjoy the look of it. That Monsterdog, it's supposed to be kind of, this is the snout of the dog. I can definitely see it a little bit, but visually I do like the look of it. But once you get it in hand, it's extremely comfortable, and so that was a really pleasant surprise, just how comfortable it is, and a really great user, pretty compact size. Even though it feels bigger, it's not going to take up a ton of real estate, and so big fan of this one. This is actually probably the first non-budget Kubey that I've handled. I've handled quite a decent amount of their budget line, but this is the first probably over $100 Kubey that it's in my collection, and this is a decent amount, over $100 at $165. But again, in those materials, that M390, the titanium, and really love the pattern on this. It's not like anything else I have in my collection, and so wouldn't hesitate to pay that for this one. But if you have one, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you don't have one, let me know what you think of it. And as always, just be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification button if you enjoyed this video. It definitely helps out the algorithm. And as always, I hope you have a great one. Take care.